Oh, get out of the way, huh?
It's okay. Okay.
Good.
You're too tall.
You good? All right. Hey guys, I'm Shay Abraham, and today I'd like to talk about something that's kind of prevalent in our society today. It's been prevalent for a while. The U.S. Justice Department in 2010 did a study, and well, in 2010 there were 72,659 people who were denied background checks. You know, they went into a federal firearms dealer and they were denied a background check. Of those 72,659, 34,459 people had a felony conviction or indictment. So that's 34,459 people who should not have been in there, who committed a federal offense that went in and tried to get to purchase a firearm. Of the also of the 72,659, 13,862 people were active fugitives. So actively fugitives. And they also applied for the background check. So that's a total of 48,321 people who tried to apply for a firearm and were denied, which illegally tried. On there, it asks you, are you a felon? You say no. If you lie, that's illegal and you can be prosecuted for it. Of the 48,000 people, a whopping 44 were prosecuted. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the further education on gun control and how we do have some laws in place that we should be pushing, and that there's a lot of different things on both sides of the aisle that aren't true. So we have a problem today in America. Obviously, we have there's gun violence. We see it all over the place. It seems like every day we're turning on the news. At least I am, and you see something else happening. Also, we have a problem of lack of education. Every time I turn on the news, there's someone talking about like a fully semi-auto something, or they refer to horrible weapons that in the wrong way. And there's crazy rhetoric on both sides of the aisle of guns are the worst thing in the world, and not only are they the worst thing in the world, that anyone that supports gun rights are they have the blood of children on their hands. And then on the other aisle, it's all you want is tyranny and oppression to take away all my rights. Obviously, those are talking points, and we shouldn't pay much credence to it, but that's all you hear. And also, I believe that there's a lack of virtue and morality in our society, and that's really kind of what brings upon us all these issues of just murders in general, and shootings and mass shootings especially. So we're going to talk about three different things today. The first is false claims about guns and gun control. Second would be debunking some of those claims, or at least explaining why they may be wrong. And then a third is we'll talk about education and why educating our children, ourselves, and society is so important. So first, so the false claims, which you hear all the time. Piers Morgan on CNN was interviewing Kathy McCarthy, and he said, quote, "You have by far the worst rate of gun murder and crime in any of the civilized countries." And he's referring to the United States of America, that we have by far the worst gun rate and murder of any civilized country. Another quote is by New York Times. Quote, "America's murder rate is roughly 15 times that of other wealthy countries, which have much tougher gun laws." And the finally being President Obama. And he quoted this. This quote is following the murder of 9 people at a Charleston church, a church in Charleston. He said, quote, "Now is the time for mourning and healing. But let's be clear, at some point, we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this doesn't happen in other countries with this type of frequency. And which brings us to the next point. Are all these claims true? So, President Obama, Pierce Morgan, you see these things all the time, and these sort of talking points are repeated constantly. And, it really does seem like we have a huge problem in the United States. And I'm not saying we don't. In our little, microcosm, you don't see other countries really. You have to look at the facts, but it seems like every day, we're having issues, that there's gun violence every day, and it really is. Like once a week, we have a shooting somewhere or something. So according to crimeresearch.org, when U.S. ranked 11th in annual rates, crime rates by shootings, and 12th in the frequency of mass shootings compared to other European countries. So great, countries that are wealthy and are prominent in the world. We're ranked 11th in annual death rates and 12th in the frequency of shootings. So we can see that, one, we're not 15 times worse than anyone else, and two, the frequency of mass shootings here isn't as much as other places, and other places that have more gun control. So, what's the issue then? If it's not so much that we're committing more gun crimes than other countries who don't have, or who have more gun control, where are we failing? And which brings me to my other points. Where are these studies coming from? President Obama stated that 40% of gun sales are committed, or 40% of gun sales are without any federal firearms, license. So that'd be only 60% of the guns out there are legal because they went through a federal firearms dealer. And that statement is kind of taken as just state of fact. You hear it all the time. That was back in 2010. You hear that statement all the time. And the reality is probably closer to 10%. The data that was used, which is important when we look at some of these facts, was 20 years old. The study was formed of 2,568 people. They called 2,568 homes, I'm sorry. And of those homes, only 251 of the homes actually wanted to answer the question of where did you get your weapon? And they said, well, I got it from someone other than a federal firearms license dealer, which could be like a family member, could be a friend, your uncle gave it to you or something. It happens all the time. So the data is kind of skewed, which brings me to my third point. So the education and morality is important. Ben Franklin is quoted by saying, "Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. And as a nation becomes corrupt and vicious, they have a need of more answers." And I think that really is the key to society today and key to how to prevent some of these heinous crimes from happening. The answer is we need to be more moral. We need to be focused more on getting kids out of their basements playing video games, violent video games and stuff, which I do myself. However, we need to be conscious of this being an issue. And we need to teach our children of morality and virtuous living. And we also need to require the same of our political figures. Now, it's every day it seems like President Trump, some new scandal's coming up, and we need to demand more of our political figures. So, in conclusion, what has changed? From between 1970 and 1990s, handgun purchases went up 160%, but the murder rate went down 27.7%. Like I said, I believe that we need to teach morality, and we need to teach, and we need to expect the best out of our political, leaders, and have them push truth instead of a left or right leaning propaganda. Thank you.